No.
Oh,
oh my goodness!
Oh, no.
Shit!
Oh,
Oh my
no.
goodness!
Ozzy tribute.
Hell yeah. R.I.P. to Ozzy, man. I can't believe it still, but we got some fights to talk about. I just want to put this up as a tribute, of course, to the legend himself. But UFC Abu Dhabi was this past weekend. Lived up to the hype that it was given in pretty much every way. Gotta say this, too. I love the midday cards, just for our purposes. Just because, like, you know, for me at least, like with the pay-per-views, when it starts to get, like, past midnight Eastern time, like, even as if I'm hyped, I'm just starting to get a little sleepy. So I'm always glad when I see a nice little 2 p.m.
I'm indifferent. I mean, I maybe because for some people gotta work during the day and stuff, but and so me, for instance, when I get home, then it's already the main card and I'm able to catch pretty much all of it.
True.
But I do get the having to stay up part. But, you know, it is also Saturday, so maybe people are staying up anyways.
Yeah, I mean, we're crazy enough. We do it.
Yeah.
We do it anyway. I don't know. My wish has always been, I just wish they would move it 1 hour earlier. If it was like 9, it would probably always, like, I'm talking about pay-per-view specifically. You know, they would probably end around like midnight at the latest.
Well, I don't
So
like
it's like-
I don't like the fight night cards that start at 10.
Yeah, that's a bit odd sometimes.
That seems unnecessary.
Yeah, the pay-per-view makes more sense than the fight nights. Well, the fight nights are at all different times, so I don't even know if I could criticize it, but
Well, I like the fight nights during the day.
yeah. Well,
Pay-per-views I'm okay with the regular time.
fair enough. But we got a day card this time here in New Jersey for UFC Abu Dhabi, and this main event, we got to hop into it because it was a thriller, to say the least. Super close fight between Reinier de Ridder and former champion Rob Whittaker. RDR wins via split decision, 48-47 on two of the judges' scorecards, and then the other judge scored at 48-47 for Whittaker. And I think the main story with this fight is I don't think you could be mad if either guy would have won because this fight was so razor close. I mean, I had this one 2-2 going into the 5th round. And I had RDR winning 2-4, and then Whittaker 1-3. And then basically the 5th round, to me, I thought the 5th round was super close the entire time because I think both guys were just gassed at that point until basically the final minute. And this will lead us into kind of a debate that I want to have because I'm curious of your take about it after you hear mine. But I think that de Ridder was able to kind of assert more like control time up against the cage later in the 5th round, which I think gave him the fight. But the thing is, a lot of people are arguing, well, Whittaker was defending all of these takedowns. I mean, even during the fight, Whittaker defended 13 of 15 takedowns from de Ridder, which is pretty incredible against a grappler of like that level. But my question here is, should takedown defense be more important to MMA scoring? And I think it should be. I don't think it should be as important as like, you know, damage and things like that. But, you know, you hear octagon control come up a lot. I think if you're defending takedowns, you're controlling where the fight is. Because if RDR wants the fight on the ground and you prevent him from taking it there, I think you deserve some credit for that. I don't think you deserve as much credit for that as you would for like a knockdown or something, but I do think it should matter. And then when you even broaden the scope though, like look at other sports. Like there's defensive stats in baseball, football, basketball, and I get that it's different, but I just feel like in MMA, takedown defense should be a lot more important. And I think if it was, you could argue that Whittaker would have won this fight. And I'm not saying that he should have. I do think RDR won just based off the, you know, current rule set. I just think that takedown defense should matter a lot more.
How much? Okay, a lot more. So.
Well, considering it, I say a lot more, but it means nothing right now. It's not in the criteria for scoring. So a lot more for me is just adding it.
Okay, fair enough. because I think I think kind of in a way it adds more to the chess match that already is an MMA fight, but you're also kind of maybe not maybe punishing is not the right word, but you're kind of it's in a way ridiculing a guy for trying to impose action and trying to uh just trying to draw offense, because let's say two guys are just at a standstill because they're so tired, like Rob Whittaker and Rene DeRitter right here in this fight. And so Rene DeRitter's got Rob Whittaker all tied up in the clinch, um, and then if you break out of that clinch and they're just standing trying to figure out where the opening is to strike, but one guy's gonna, he's shooting for the takedown and it just gets stuffed, then wouldn't you think already the guy who stuffs the takedown is gonna be scoring points anyway? So why would he really need much more in the scoring system for
I don't think
just
they score points though for that. I just don't think it matters. RDR won this fight because of it.
Well, defending it. I mean, you defend the takedown, you should already be able to score points on the ground anyways, or just stand the fight back up if you just want to, if you feel more comfortable striking on the feet and scoring points that way. Because if you defended the takedown and he's already in your control, then that's a better position for you to maneuver a submission or strike, ground and pound, and score that way.
I see. I see this fight in particular, and especially the fifth, where it was so even until the very end, and it's not like DeRitter was doing anything after Whittaker stuffed the takedown. So to me, it's like Whittaker should get more credit for stuffing it, but in reality, he gets no credit, and DeRitter gets the win because octagon control is the last thing that matters. But don't you think Whittaker should get octagon control, even though he's technically, I get it. He's getting held up against the cage, which matters. He's being neutralized. But at the same time, RDR is trying to get the fight to the ground, and he can't do it. And, this is just one particular instance, but there's a lot of rounds in a lot of fights that are so even. And I feel like this is a thing that they do, they do calculate it. It's a stat that they count, takedown attempts versus, takedowns made. I just feel like it should matter more in the scoring, because when you get these super close rounds in big fights like this, that could be something that could differentiate it. And maybe I'm just overthinking maybe what octagon control should mean. But for me, it's just that fifth round, I really didn't have a clear opinion of who won it until I watched this fight like a couple of times. And then I still felt like with the current rules, DeRitter won it, because when you look at what they mean by octagon control, they mean who has like the more offensive position. And I just think that when there's no offense, even if you're trying to push it, there wasn't offense. He shot a sloppy takedown and they're in the clinch, and neither of them were really doing anything from that position. But if RDR would have gotten Whittaker to the ground, that's a whole different story. I mean, that's a takedown. Boom, he should win the fight right there from that. But Whittaker was able to defend really well. And because of that, RDR isn't able to get the fight where he wants it. So, to me, I'm just... And again, this is one fight, but I'm like, shouldn't that matter a little bit? I'm not saying it should matter to the point of the other criterias, but I think it should be on there at least.
I think this is a good conversation to bring up something that I meant to say to you before we started this, to maybe have a separate conversation for it on this pod right here. But this will probably factor in pretty well with whether or not takedown defense should matter much more than it does. So I'm sure you saw Khabib say that there shouldn't, why even have rounds, and then we could just do.
Love that.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
And I saw a response saying, well, judges struggle enough with round by round. You give them 25 straight minutes of a fight, then it'll probably just be even worse. But if you did factor in, which, makes sense for a guy like Khabib to say that, because he's so good at controlling his opponent and neutralizing them, keeping them on the ground, and just just dragging them into the deep water that way. If an MMA fight were to be just straight 25 minutes and no rounds, then I think takedown defense becomes a lot more important, and why why the scoring system would weigh it at all, and except for the way they do now, because the cuts kind of each round, if you're able to go back to your corner each round, and depending on how good your coaches really are. Like, for instance, Rob Whittaker's coaches, after that first round, kind of telling him, like, pump the brakes a little bit, try to conserve the gas tank. They told him that the knockout was going to come, and it almost did come. So you could, not to say that you're going through a whole 8 to 12 week fight camp to just switch up your game plan and how you're going to beat somebody on a whim, but in a 5-round fight like this one, you're going to use those first 2 to 3 rounds to kind of just maneuver while you're in the corner, and just kind of implement either a plan B. Well, not implement, you probably already have a plan B, but either just switch up a little bit, figure out what's working and what's not, and then just keep it on. So in this case, for the winner in Rene de Ridder, then for him it was just, all right, I'm not able to get Rob Whittaker to the ground, then I'm just going to he's going to really implement this Muay Thai with the knees and the up close clinching and whatnot. And then it was enough at the end to where they were both so tired that he just had them up against the fence, and that's really all it took. So I think, yeah, if you gave it just straight up, who's gonna, because damage would still obviously be super important, but judges are still, significant strikes are still what they are, and judges are still looking like, oh, who looks more beat up and whatnot. And so, or in this case, part of why it was so close, the big reason why it's so close, because Rob Whittaker was able to get that knockdown when you thought Rene de Ridder was finished right then and there. But that's, long story short, that's kind of why I think it's not the way, because I think they're trying, the higher ups, so Dana and all of them, are trying to incentivize, like, you have to want to be on the attack. You have to want to push the pace so much to go for a takedown if you feel like it's there. And just because it's not there and a guy is stuffing it, then
then you're at a stalemate, though. That's my point. Like, sometimes it ends up, like you said before, like where the guy defending will be in an advantageous position, or even the guy shooting for the takedown will manage to chain it into something better. But, like, when you have moments like this, where in the fifth it's kind of so close and there's really not much, where you could really differentiate, I think that it should just matter a little more. Like, I'm not saying it should matter to the extent as, like, damage or effective striking and grappling, but I think that, even when you think about on the feet, effective defense on the feet kind of scores points sometimes if there's not really much to go on. So why shouldn't it matter with the grappling? Like, offense and wrestling matters so much with the grappling, but it's like defensive wrestling, it matters. Like, you have to train. If you think about it, a striker, that's the biggest thing that they're training in camp, because they have to keep the fight on the feet. And yet they get no credit for doing that if they keep getting held up against the cage, which, again, people will say, oh, well, that means that the person who can't get off the cage, they should lose the fight. If that's how you feel, by all means. But if the person holding them up against the cage isn't doing anything, it just feels like the stalemate that you said they're trying to avoid, which I do think they are. But I don't know. Like, I think you're going to get stalemates in MMA no matter what. It's just the nature of the sport in the cage that they have it in. I just think that this would be a way to maybe make that stalemate matter a little more than it does, rather than having it be this weird, like, gray area where you really have no idea who's going to win off of it. But then, like, you look at Whittaker, like I say, throughout the fight, he defended 13 of 15 takedowns, and I just don't know how many it was in the fifth. Yeah, in the fifth, he defended all 4 of de Ridder's attempts. But it's doesn't matter. Although I will say this. De Ridder did outstrike him and control him for 2 minutes and 15 seconds, but a lot of that was, again, up against the cage, little shots, nothing that did a crazy amount of damage. And again, this is coming from a guy who thinks De Ridder won the fight. Like, I do think he won the fight. When you look at it just, as a whole, I think Whittaker started off well really early, with that signature in and out movement that he has. But then once De Ridder started pressuring Whittaker, that was when the fight started to change a little bit because he was hitting him with those jabs, using those knees, and it seemed to do a lot to Whittaker's cardio, but it also did a lot to RDR's cardio because he's not used to standing and banging for 25 minutes because he's used to being able to assert his dominance on the ground, which he couldn't really do in this fight, so he had to win it a different way. And it's interesting to look at the scoring because of that. I think it all comes down to how you scored that 5th round and what you value. But like I said, the way that the current scoring system is, control time matters, and that pretty much gave RDR the fight. But you wonder if, takedown defense mattered a little more in the scoring, what that would mean for the outcome of this fight, because this one was so close. I mean, this is one of the closest main events that I can really remember in a while. And it was a real treat to watch, to be honest. I really loved watching this one. But then, RDR won, no matter what we think. So I think now he's clearly in the title picture. I mean, when you beat a guy like Rob Whittaker, you're automatically in that conversation. And I think right now, at least for me at middleweight, I think that Imavov versus Borralho is still going on in September. I think that's going to matter in terms of the title picture. And obviously the title fight in August between Duplessis and Khamzat is the biggest piece of the puzzle here. That'll really determine a lot.
The style from RDR is very entertaining to watch, and I wouldn't expect anything less from a one championship fighter. But
triple champ.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
people forget. So, when he got signed, people weren't really talking about him as a future title contender, not right away at least. And now we're starting to get into that conversation, which is cool because I've loved watching De Ridder since his 1 day. So.
And this fight is very telling of how sustainable the awkward movement and style is.
Look at the champion.
Division. Well,
yeah. Look at the champ, DDP. I want to see these two guys fight.
Let's see if DDP gets the job done against Khamzat, because Khamzat's really going to test that. But these more kind of stifling, dirty boxer kind of. So even like Kyle Borralho, for instance, I think is clearly much more refined in his striking and possesses that knockout power. It's guys like that are going to really test Rene De Ridder on the feet and see how much he can really take it and give it back that much harder. So, I guess what I'm getting at more is, does Rene De Ridder possess that ability to, not only knock someone out, but just even with one pump, even with one strike, does he have that in his back pocket?
I think he does. I just don't think he has.
Because this fight, for instance, he had the fortune of Rob Whittaker also being really tired and not being able to get off of the fence. But if it gets down to it where he is losing the fight and he does need the finish, and he can't get the takedown, so he can't go to his bread and butter on the ground, and he does need that finish, that miraculous finish. Does he have it?
I think in the clinch he does. In that really close range, I think he does have the power to drop a guy, and then usually the thing with De Ridder is when he drops a guy on the feet, boom, he's on top of the guy, and then the guy's in a real world of trouble because that's where De Ridder shines, is on the ground, and especially on top. So I think that, I don't know if he maybe has that one-shot knock. I mean, I think anybody at that weight has one-shot knockout power, but I think De Ridder, if he were to get a shot like that, it would be just one of those ones where he just connects on just a wild exchange. But yeah. I don't know if he has the technique to really set it up perfectly. I think that it would be more like a close exchange, cracks him with an uppercut or a hook in the clinch or near the clinch. Guy falls, and then he's on top and finishes him either with strikes or submits him. That's just how his career has looked for a long time. And I don't know. I mean, he's got a really awkward style, and a guy, even Barriault or Imavov, like those would be tough fights for him. I do believe that. I think that a guy like RDR, you have to get him on the back foot. You can't let someone like that pressure you, because that's when he does his best. I mean, look what he just did to Whittaker, who's seen as a really crafty striker. I mean, after a while, he couldn't really do that much. And part of that was because of just being gassed by the constant pressure that RDR had. And it's crazy how much you saw that change throughout the fight, because in the first, RDR was moving around a lot more, and Whittaker was able to blitz in and out so much. But then as the fight went on, RDR was able to back him up, hit him with the jab, hit him with those knees, get the fight in the clinch, make it dirtier than Whittaker wants it. And then by round 5, I mean, RDR was gassed, but Whittaker, I think, was even more gassed. And you could tell just by the way that he was defending up against the cage. He wasn't in a rush to get back out to the center. It was kind of like a point where they could both kind of take a breath. Mm-hmm. So it was a really good fight. I thought that this one, I didn't know what was going to happen, honestly, going in, because I really do think highly of De Ridder, but at the same time, I wasn't sure what to think of his striking compared to Whittaker's, and he impressed me in this one. To do that to a guy like Whittaker, it's a big deal, and I think that he deserves a lot of credit for that. And I think it's between him, Imavov, and Barriault for who gets that next middleweight title fight, no matter who wins in August versus with Dricus du Plessis and Hamzat. I think middleweight's at a really cool point right now, because we have, if you count Hamzat, obviously, who's fighting for the title, there's 4 awesome top contenders right now. And no matter who wins that fight in August, I think we have a really bright future at the top of middleweight with all of the change-ups in the top of the rankings lately. What's up, guys? Sorry to interrupt the podcast real quick, but we have a message for you guys.
If you enjoy the Her Hamburg's content, you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like on the videos, all sorts of fight content as much as possible, podcasts, interviews, vlogs. We have it all over here, so thank you. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you, and like he said, please subscribe. And now, back to the show. To move on to the co-main event, which I'm super stoked to talk about, actually. Petr Yan versus Marcus McGhee. A lot of people were questioning this fight when it was made, and I do get it because of the difference in rankings, but people don't realize how good Marcus McGhee is, and I think truly in the first round of this fight he did show his level. But Petr Yan, notoriously slow starter, he takes that first round to kind of gather data, and this fight was exactly that. I thought McGhee did really good in the first, and so did the judges, because they all scored at 29-28 for Petr Yan. They all gave McGhee the first, and they all gave Yan the second and the third. I think it was a tougher fight than Petr Yan was expecting, but at the same time, Yan managed to do what he does best, and that's push the pace, back you up, using that technical Muay Thai. And he has like a really good Muay Thai style, because it's not just the striking. He's really good in the clinch too with those trips. Like, I think it was the third round when he hit him with that one trip in the clinch and immediately went for a Kimura. Like, that was smooth. I know he didn't hit it, but that was smooth. And he's always someone that I really like watching. And I thought that this was a signature type of win for Petr Yan, a vintage Yan performance. And Marcus McGhee, though, got to give him credit. I thought he did his best in there, and he proved that he does belong in there with the top bantamweights in the world right now. So I'm hoping that this doesn't screw his run up that much, because he was on a 6-fight winning streak before this. So I hope it doesn't push him that far back. And as far as Petr Yan, I think this pretty much puts him right up in the title conversation, if not solidifying his place as next. But there's a lot we could dive into with this fight. Where do you want to go with it first?
Well, I think it was more of a testament to Petr Yan than it was whether or not Marcus McGhee is ready for this upper tier of the bantamweight division. And that's fine, because who wouldn't, after this fight, who wouldn't want to see Petr Yan get another title shot in the near future? And I would want to see it against Merab too, to be honest. I think they're both very similar with one another, and I think just Peter Yan with his boxing style is something that could give Merab some problems, and then on the ground, like Merab's got everything in the playbook that he can resort to, and Peter Yan would just have to. So that's the thing I kind of wish Marcus McGhee could have done more in this fight is test Peter Yan more on the ground. But I think this was, like I said, more of a testament to Peter Yan and his experience and his pedigree as a former champ and whatnot. So it's just a big fight for Marcus McGhee and a big spot in the co-main of an Abu Dhabi card, and so he should get back at some point. Maybe puts together another 5 to 6 fight win streak, and then who knows? Maybe him and Peter Yan meet again at some point. But Peter Yan right now should definitely get another title shot in the very near future. And even if it is against Sandhagen.
That was another great fight when they first fought.
Yeah.
So I know the Merab fight was a lot, more spread apart, but I also think it's been so long since that fight that both guys have gotten better, and I think we'd see a different fight. Sure. But the Sandhagen fight would be interesting too. That's why I think he should be next, 1,000%. Because the only other guy that I really put in that conversation, and it's really on the fringe, is Song Yadong, and Peter Yan beat him. So I just think that he's the only guy right now who deserves it, even though he's lost to Merab, and obviously he beat Sandhagen. So I think if Sandhagen wins, if they don't give Merab an immediate rematch, I think Yan clearly deserves that. But either way, I think Peter Yan's next fight should be a title fight. So let's hope we see that. Yeah, typical vintage win by Peter Yan. But then fight before that, dude, this fight, especially round 2, that might have been round of the year, because Shara Bullet versus Marc-Andre Barriault, they went to war, and the scorecards do not tell the full story of this fight, because Shara wins via unanimous decision. It was 30-27 across all 3 judges' scorecards, but man, in round 2, that was close, because Shara, it was one, I can't remember the last time, besides the finish, obviously, but I can't remember the last time I saw one shot change the trajectory of a fight like that so quickly, because Barriault hit him right on the nose, and you could tell that really affected Shara right away, because his breathing had to be impacted. You could see the shift in the positioning of his nose. I think Paul Felder said that Shara is smelling everything behind him now. And I'm like, yeah, he might be after that. And then at the end of that round, though, Shara came back after almost getting finished, and then almost finished Marc-Andre Barriault. What a crazy round that was. And, part of the reason why Shara got that round was because of how he rebounded from that tough moment. And then in round 3, obviously, he went back to what he was doing in round 1 and dominated the fight. But, we've talked about it on the pod before too, though. Marc-Andre Barriault is notoriously tough to finish. He has an iron chin. So I don't really fault him for not getting it done, even though he pieced him up for most of the fight. It was a battle. Those are the types of fights you watch this sport for, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I know Shara Bullet at this point is more or less a household name when it comes to just overseas fighters and stuff, and people that are on the rise. And even before he came in UFC, he was pretty well known. But where this UFC run has really tested his ability to strike. Whereas it started off pretty shaky and not that encouraging whether or not he'd be able to withstand a fight like this and then give it back to Andre Barriault the way he did. But it's in a way with Marc-Andre Barriault just kind of charging Shara Bullet for a lot of this fight, at least in the beginning, and then Shara Bullet having the counter. I think that's something you got to give credit to Shara Bullet for. He's a pretty good counter striker, and so Marc-Andre Barriault just went in head first, and he was going to test that, and Shara Bullet did a pretty good job of withstanding it, and and getting back on the front foot. But this is more of a fight that shows you that Sharavola is pretty. I think he's not only capable of striking with the best of them, but he's pretty crafty too, and he can put together some pretty interesting combos and potentially finish somebody. So.
And he's tough as nails. I mean, when you think about him fighting the elite strikers, I mean, you can't really get hit with a harder, clean shot than he got hit with in this fight. And, you know, besides, like I said, those ones that just put your lights out. But, you know, in terms of staying in the fight, I mean, this is a dude who can clearly take a shot and can come right back at you. So I think that's what we really saw in this fight. And we knew he had heart. I mean, there were other fights where he was kind of tested, couldn't get the finish right away. And his only loss in the UFC is versus MVP. And I don't really fault him for that because that's such a tough style to go against. And MVP, I mean, he's constantly on the outside. You really have to be on top of it to outstrike a guy like that. So, I don't know. I think that there's still a lot of potential. I know people have mixed thoughts on him. And I'm still not sure where his ceiling is, but I see a lot of potential for an improvement. And this fight shows that even if he's not on the dominant end of the fight at all points, he can clearly put himself back.
I think he's battle tested for sure.
Exactly. Like, I'm not worried about this guy going into war. Like, I definitely have seen enough where I could definitely see him just, man. Like, I mean, just think about him versus any of those, like, top 10 middleweights, you know, in just a striking war for 5 rounds.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty crazy.
I think, yeah, that's what I mean. I think now it's kind of proven that, it's kind of shown that I think he can go into that 4th and 5th round and give it everything he's got.
Yeah.
But
it's a good fight.
We'll still see whether or not he can actually finish somebody that way.
I don't put that against him in this fight. I honestly think if this was versus anybody else, he would have finished them, even with what happened. Barriault, I don't even think he's ever been knocked out. If he has, he's only been knocked out like once. I'm like almost certain of that. Because I remember his fights in the past, and he's just known for having an iron chin, which is part of why he can kind of just blitz in the range in the way that he does and not really worry about it. I'm trying to look, though, if he has any. Yeah, it was Joe Pyfer was really the... Yeah, most of his losses in the UFC are by decision or like on the ground. Joe Pyfer, it seems like, is really the main person who's only finished him, and we know Joe Pyfer has insane power anyway. I don't know, it's been tested a bit more in recent years. To be fair, though, they're putting him up against guys who hit like trains. Shara, he's fought Shara, Joe Pyfer. I mean, he fought Chris Curtis, and even the fights that he won. I mean, Eric Anders hits hard. Julian Marquez hits hard. Man. So, he fought another battle-tested guy is kind of my point. He's known for being tough in there. But, you know, other good performances on the card, too. I mean, there was a lot that we could kind of dive into. I thought Bogdan Guskov looked really good against Krylov in his fight. Not much to really talk about there. I mean, we know that Guskov has insane power, and Krylov... You know, I hate to use this term because it sounds disrespectful, but to me, I think being a gatekeeper for as long as Krylov has been, I still think that's impressive. I mean, he's been in that top 10, top 15 range at light heavyweight for as long as I can remember. And you can't really stay in that position if you're not still winning fights. And he's really only lost to guys who have made their way to the very top. So Guskov gets a win over, you know, another battle-tested type of opponent, and he's a guy who I've had my eye on for a little bit, and I think that he'll continue to rise through the ranks. I mean, they started him off against Volkan Ozdemir, and that's a tough test for your UFC debut, but it seems like he's improved a lot since then. So, but then you look at other fights. I mean, Bryce Mitchell, this is a fight that I really would love to talk about a little bit. Bryce Mitchell versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. I mean, bantamweight debut for Bryce Mitchell. Comes back from that first round knee, which was insane. I mean, he almost got finished and then pretty much dominates the rest of the fight on the ground. And I don't know what you think, but I feel like at bantamweight, he has a lot more strength because he wasn't exactly a huge featherweight in his time. I mean, even when you look at the difference in his physique at featherweight, he was just kind of more like doughy, for lack of a better term. I mean, he wasn't fat. Don't get me wrong, but like he wasn't shredded like he looked at bantamweight. And I thought that his physique looked a lot better, and I think that his cardio looked good over the course of those 3 rounds for the most part. I mean, Magomedov, he's not really known for great cardio. It's kind of like his big flaw in his fights, but I thought Bryce Mitchell did a really good job in his debut, and I would like to see him against a ranked opponent next. I mean, he was ranked at featherweight, so I don't see why you can't give him that step up. So what did you think of his debut there?
Yeah, isn't that kind of... Well, maybe it's not that interesting, but it's also at the same time, it's just how long to get somebody in the top 5 for him to fight. Do you think it would really take?
I don't think it should be next. I mean, beating a flawed fighter like Magomedov, I mean, it matters because he is good and he overcame a lot of adversity in this one, but he's not even ranked yet. I'm trying to think of who you could put him up against, because a lot of the guys who I'm thinking are coming off losses. I don't know. Rob Font is ranked number 9. What do you think of something like that? It's
I don't know. Maybe
Ayman Zahabi's there. Maybe that'd be an interesting one actually, because striker versus grappler, and I think that. Actually, that one intrigues me because when you think about Bryce Mitchell, his striking is the big question mark. Well, it's not even a question mark. Bryce Mitchell's just, he's not known for his striking. He needs to get the fight to the ground. And Ayman Zahabi is known for having pretty precise striking. So you wonder if Zahabi could finish Bryce Mitchell or if Bryce Mitchell could get that fight to the ground and maybe submit Zahabi, who I think, for a guy who's ranked number 11, I think he's a lot better than that ranking states. But we've talked about bantamweight many times on this podcast. It's one of the most deep divisions in the sport, and there's a lot of high-level fighters there. So I would like to see Bryce Mitchell kind of crack that top 15 next. I think he deserves it. So it was a good fight, though. I think he showed a lot in that one. Like I said, he looked a lot better physically, so I think that'll only help him. And considering his cardio looked good, that matters a lot to me too, because you wonder sometimes when someone drops down in weight with a little more of a weight cut, if that's going to impact their cardio at all. Didn't seem to, do much to Bryce that you didn't really I honestly thought he looked pretty similar at bantamweight than he did at featherweight, except now I think he has a lot more strength on his side against smaller fighters. But, besides that, I told you before the show, I wanted to go on a Muslim Salikhov rant, and I'm going to have to do it. And this is a positive rant, to be very clear. This dude, I don't understand how he is not seen as a bigger fan favorite, because when you look at his highlight reel, it is absolutely insane. I mean, first of all, the knockout that he had in this fight card at UFC Abu Dhabi was absolutely insane. But then, you look at the rest of his resume, I'm pretty sure, he's had multiple spinning back kick knockouts, which how many people can you say that about? I mean, he's had multiple wars. I still remember that fight versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. I mean, this guy, he's had insane knockouts throughout his career. He's been in the UFC.
Oh, yeah. He's an older fella, isn't he?
Yeah, for a minute. Since 2017. So, this is a guy... I don't understand how he's not seen as a bigger fan favorite. I mean, because this dude's highlight reel is one of the best in the sport. I mean, I know he's not, a top ranked fighter, but
maybe they gotta give him a more prominent spot on an Apex card.
That's what I'm saying. Let's push this guy a little more because he's proven that he can deliver on these highlights, man. I mean, the amount of times I've seen this dude on the good end of a Sports Center highlight. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch. I've told you this before. Every time I see this dude's name on a fight card, no matter where it is, I'm always hyped because there's always a chance you're going to see what we just saw here at UFC Abu Dhabi. So that's all I have to say there. I just love this guy. I think he deserves so much more credit. He's super fun to watch. Good win by Muslim Salikhov. Tabitha Ricci got a nice win over Amanda Ribas, which was a very important win. I was shocked this fight was on the prelims because this mattered a lot for the strawweight division. She basically elbowed Amanda Ribas right in the eye socket. And I can't imagine that feels good. I mean, I've been elbowed before, but never in the eye socket. So, and I think Amanda had to have some sort of surgery to fix like a muscle there. So she really messed her up. But now Tabitha Ricci is in the top 10 at 115. And there's a lot of potential for her going forward. I'm intrigued to see who they put her up against next, to be honest, because that's another division that's pretty deep at this point. I mean, Amanda was number 7, Tabitha was number 10, so you got to imagine she's going to be pretty far up now in the top 10. Ahead of Ribas was Kenzie Dern, Jessica Andrade, Amanda Lemos, Yan Xiaonan, Tatiana Suarez, and Virna Jandiroba. So you wonder who's going to be next there. I think it could really be anybody at this point. Has she fought Jillian Robertson yet? I don't think she has. That'd be a good fight, actually. She's ranked number 9. I feel like that's around where Ricci's going to be. Because, like I said, Ribas is number 7, so you'd have to imagine she's going to be somewhere from that 7 to 9 range. Be interesting. I don't know if they'd want her to fight down in the rankings, but stylistically, that would be a cool matchup. But, yeah, great win for the Baby Shark. So, and the last fight that we're going to talk about from this card, and I think this one will be an interesting conversation. Steven Nyugen breaks the UFC record for most knockdowns in a fight against Muhammad Yayha, knocking him down 6 times in 2 rounds. And while that is an insane achievement, he deserves credit for it. I think the story of this fight is what was Jason Herzog waiting for to stop this one, because this could have been stopped at near the end of the first round. And then he got dropped a couple more times in the second.
I'm not trying to laugh about this, but what's just the funny part is just how much more does a guy need to be knocked down for the fight to be stopped? How much more does his eye need to swell up and not be able to see out of it for the fight to stop, you know? And then it takes the stoppage to stop. I mean, oh my God. You're kind of thinking it's like, there's no way they let this fight keep going, right?
And thank God after the second they didn't. I mean, because Yahya's eye was completely shut. I mean, I don't know if Jason Herzog watched Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard 2 and thought that Yahya was like still going to come back. Maybe he was watching that fight in the hotel room before the card and, was getting amped. He's like, maybe Yahya can come back from this. But because I'll give Yahya this championship level heart. I mean, he was fighting back and he did hurt Nyugen a couple of times, but it was just every shot that he was getting hit with, he was getting dropped.
Got himself a performance of the night bonus for this, rightfully so. When you set a record, it's like how could you not get one? But
it was tough to watch there. At the
I
end,
hope that dude it's okay after this.
I mean, he had to have shattered his orbital. There's no way with all that swelling.
Oh God, man.
Well, I mean,
that was tough.
The way his under his eye looked, man. I mean, what else would that be?
That was really tough to watch, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the first round, they could have stopped it when he dropped him pretty bad, and then Jason Herzog didn't. And then in the second round, Yahya just took way too much punishment, in my opinion. That fight should have been stopped way too many times before Herzog actually ended up stopping it. And I don't want to rag on Herzog too much. I mean, I still think he's the best ref in the sport right now. But every ref has their moments, and this was just a really rough one for Herzog, in my opinion. So it's a shame, though, because it was tough to watch. But good on Nyugen for getting that record. I mean, that matters in the end. Even no matter what happens in his career, he can say that he holds a UFC record, and a pretty cool one at that. So,
like the highest scoring freaking UFC performance ever.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I mean, good on him getting all those knockdowns. You can't blame him. I mean, he's just trying to win the fight. I mean, you can see, even at the end of the first round, when he dropped him bad, he immediately jumped to his back. He's like, Jesus, man, if you're not going to stop it after my 5th knockdown, I'm going to try to at least choke him out. Do something to get him out of this fight. I mean, God, man. Like I said, Herzog must have been watching Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard 2 before the fight, and he was like, Yahya's got a chance. And yeah, I shouldn't joke about it, but that was crazy to watch that go on as long as it did. But overall, amazing card. I really enjoyed watching this one from start to finish. And yeah, I hope we have more like this. Sadly, the one next week is not like this. I mean, the main event just fell through between Amir Albazi and Tatsuro Taira. It's an Apex card that's going to be a tough one, but yeah, it is what it is. Next week, though, I think we're probably going to have a special, different type of video next week instead of just, kind of mailing in a podcast talking about an Apex card that probably most fans aren't that excited about, which sucks. I mean, because the main event is still pretty good, because they did get a fight rebooked for Taira, but it's not the most stacked card like this one was. So I don't think we're going to be covering this one unless some crazy things happen. But we do have a fun video idea for next week, so stay tuned on Sunday or Monday for that. And until then,
like and subscribe.
That too. But until
then we'll see ya.
Feels just like a superstar. Doing all these drugs, I don't think I'm gonna see tomorrow. Living fast, brand new dash up in a foreign car. It's the type of shit that you be doing when you going